Well, we got breaking news in the Epstein scandal and Donald Trump's cover-up of it. Ghislaine Maxwell, her Supreme Court appeal has been denied in a one-line order by the United States Supreme Court. They are not taking up her appeal unless she is pardoned, and that's a big unless she is pardoned. She is not going anywhere. She's going to serve out her 20 years, and now the pressure is on Donald Trump and on MAGA Mike Johnson to swear in Representative Grijalva in order to get the 218 votes necessary to get the Epstein files from the Department of Justice and in the hands of the American people. Supreme Court did its job. Now, let me just back up in this hot take and remind you what her appeal was about and what it's not about. Her appeal was not that she didn't commit the crime. She didn't appeal arguing that she wasn't given a fair trial or there was prosecutorial misconduct or there were witnesses that were not allowed to testify or witnesses that testified that shouldn't have testified or something wrong with the grand jury indictment of her 5 counts, including for child sex trafficking. None of that. Her only argument raised by her relatively new lawyer, David Oscar Marcus, was that she should be considered a party to a non-prosecution agreement in the Southern District of Florida back in 2008, that Jeffrey Epstein's lawyers, Alan Dershowitz, negotiated on his behalf to put him in jail for a very short amount of time if he copped to a plea of soliciting prostitution from a minor. She was not named in that agreement. She did not sign that agreement with the prosecutors in Florida, but she argued that she was a unnamed co-conspirator that should get the benefit of that agreement. Again, she's not arguing she's not guilty. She was arguing that she had the equivalency of an immunity deal in place with the government. Even though she wasn't named, she didn't negotiate it, and she wasn't a party to it. Supreme Court said, no, we're not agreeing to that. They meet on Monday. We're leading into the first Monday of October, which is now the opening of the United States Supreme Court today. And they decide on the first Monday in a list which cases they're going to take up and which cases they're going to deny. And they denied it. Now, David Oscar Marcus, the lawyer down in Florida who represents Ghislaine Maxwell, said, this isn't the end. I got news for you, David Oscar Marcus. It is the end. There is no court higher other than the court of history for the court of the Supreme Court in the United States. And that was your appeal. So I want to keep the facts straight here on the MeidasTouch Network and on Legal AF. Again, she committed the crime. She was convicted beyond a reasonable doubt by a jury of 12 in New York. It was presided over by Judge Nathan. It was prosecuted by the then credible Department of Justice. Particularly, Ghislaine Maxwell's prosecutor was James Comey's daughter, Maureen Comey. She got that conviction. There was a motion practice that was filed that was rejected. She was sentenced by Judge Nathan to up to 20 years. And now the pressure's on Donald Trump because is he going to pardon her now and commute her sentence? And what is happening with Mike Johnson and not swearing in Representative Grijalva, who's waiting patiently to be sworn in so she can be the 218th vote on the discharge petition to get all those Epstein files out. At the same time, the House Oversight Committee led by MAGA is killing subpoenas to get to the bottom of the money trail. The $4 billion worth of money trail that involved Donald Trump potentially and Jeffrey Epstein. They killed the subpoenas to the banks. Let me show you some clips to remind you who Ghislaine Maxwell is, because she gave some sort of testimony to Todd Blanche, Donald Trump's lawyer, a month or so ago, in which she lied about her involvement. And that was all public. Supreme Court knew about it, and they were like, yeah, we're not taking up your appeal. Let's play a clip.
But did I think these guys were coming for that? I really don't. If you met Epstein, there is no way that this cast of characters, of which it's extraordinary, some of you in your cabinet, who you value as your co-workers and you know, would be with him if he was a creep or because they wanted sexual favors. A man wants sexual favors, he will find that. They didn't have to come to Epstein for that.
Hey everybody, Ben Meiselas here from the MeidasTouch Network. I wanted to let you know about my podcast partner, Michael Popok's new law firm. It's called the Popok Firm. Michael Popok's pursuing his dream of starting his own law firm, really based on the popular demand by all the Meidas Mighty and legal AFers who were approaching Michael Popok with their cases and saying, can you help us? And at that time, Popok was not able to. So he went out on his own. He started the Popok Firm, where he is now handling catastrophic injury cases like car accident cases, trucking cases, malpractice cases, big negligence cases, wrongful death cases. So if you or someone you know have a case like this, the consultation with Popok's firm is free. Give him a call. See if you have a case. It's thepopokfirm.com, thepopokfirm.com, or you can call 877-POPOK-AF, P-O-P-O-K-A-F. So 1-877-POPOK-AF. Give Michael Popok a call. And I'm really proud of you, Popok. Thanks for all the hard work you're putting in.
So the update here is, where are we in the Epstein world at this point? The 30,000 pages of documents released by the Oversight Committee, and mainly the Democrats, is not going to do it. There are hundreds of thousands of pages that are still being hidden by Donald Trump, his FBI director, Kash Patel, his head of the Department of Justice, Pam Bondi, and Stephen Miller, and Donald Trump himself. This now puts pressure, because if Donald Trump thought the Supreme Court was going to do him a solid and bail him out by saying and reversing his appeal, because you can see how this would have played out. Donald Trump would have pointed to the Supreme Court, then they would have overturned her appeal, overturned her conviction, and he would have said, "Oh, see, she's a victim too." There's victims on both sides in the child sex trafficking scandal. The actual victims, the actual survivors, the women who were girls when they were raped by Jeffrey Epstein with the assistance and participation of Ghislaine Maxwell. And then MAGA said the same thing. Oh, she's a victim. Alan Dershowitz, she's a victim. She's not a victim. She's a convicted child sex trafficker whose Supreme Court said, yeah, we're not, you have no grounds to overturn your appeal. And the Second Circuit said you had no grounds. We don't see any grounds. They didn't even give her the courtesy of an opinion. There's no dissent. There's no statements by others, even Alito and Thomas, MAGA to their core, among the MAGA 6 on the Supreme Court. Even they couldn't put a pen to a piece of paper to try to support Donald Trump or Ghislaine Maxwell and give him some cover. No, everybody, there wasn't 4 votes to take this up among the MAGA 6. And now all eyes are back where they belong on Donald Trump and the cover-up of the Epstein, his connections and relationship with Epstein. It's not about the birthday book, although it is. It's not about the pornographic, obscene birthday card that he made, many years ago, 30 years ago, and had it pasted into a page 200 of a 300-page birthday book. Who gets a 300-page birthday card, by the way? It's not about that. It's about this lack of transparency about something that matters to the American people and the American voters, from MAGA to liberal and everything in between. We need to continue to train our focus on the scandals and not let them up. The Tom Homan scandal involving him accepting a bribe of $50,000 of taxpayer dollars from an FBI undercover agent, and it being on video, and those videos not being released as the borders are. That scandal. The scandal about what's happening right now in violation of the Hatch Act, where Donald Trump is blaming the Democrats using taxpayer dollars with propaganda on all of the websites for all of the departments of the federal government. Scandal after scandal. As I joked recently, it's a day of the week. It must be a new Trump scandal. And maybe he's on the start of a losing streak now at the Supreme Court. We've got the tariffs and the tariff scheme that has been declared unconstitutional and against the law and illegal up at the United States Supreme Court this term. We've got birthright citizenship potentially, although we don't know yet. The appeal's been filed, but we haven't had a lot of action by the Supreme Court. Maybe we've turned the tide now, even with the MAGA 6 on the Supreme Court. Maybe they're watching federal judges, which they supervise, like Judge Immergut in Portland, Oregon, being called, even though she was a Trump appointee, being called an insurrectionist and a terrorist by Donald Trump at a time when the Supreme Court says that they're under attack. Amy Coney Barrett said, well, I'm under attack, but I'm not afraid. What about Judge Immergut? She just got called a terrorist and a insurrectionist, which I guess to be sentenced to death by Stephen Miller and Donald Trump. We got a house that's burning in South Carolina of a liberal state court judge. As we speak, burned to the ground. Obviously an act of political violence and not on the left. We're going to continue to follow it all right now, but I wanted to bring to your attention this new development. It puts maximum pressure on Donald Trump to do what the political body has demanded, the release of the Epstein files. And we won't relent here on the MeidasTouch Network until that happens. Until my next report, I'm Michael Popok. Come on over to Legal AF, the YouTube channel as well, which I do in collaboration with the brothers, and hit the subscribe button there, Legal AF Substack as well. Till my next report, I'm Michael Popok. Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.